Dear audience, welcome to my presentation, Networks of Knowledge and Decision-Making as a Motor of Sustainable Rural Development, the Participation Principle of the Leader Approach. My name is Meike Luecke. Originally, I'm a landscape ecologist, but since many years, I'm working as a manager for regional development in Germany. My contribution to the recent conference, Networks in the Global World, is structured like seen in this outline. In this lecture, of course, I will reduce the content to the most important items. First, I'd like to tell you something about the origin and intention of European rural development and the 7 features of LEADER, and then the most important things about the operating structures, then the multiple added value of long-term multi-level networking, and of course, my conclusions. So let's get started. Rural areas cover more than 50% of the territory of the European Union, and they are highly important because they perform indispensable functions of resource extraction, ecosystem buffering, and local recreation. For preserving these functions, as well as improving the competitiveness of agriculture, the EU offers direct payments to farmers for land use and environmental management. And this common agricultural policy was established at an early stage of the history of the EU and is endowed with billions of euros in subsidies. But living at the countryside is much more than food production, environment, and recreation delivering. It contains social aspects and sustainable development, and therefore a targeted policy is needed to foster disadvantaged rural areas. With this background, the EU created a special rural development policy that is designed to help rural areas that have to cope with a wide range of economic, environmental, and social challenges. So in 1991, LEADER was launched as a funding program, and the name LEADER is an abbreviation for the French expression Liaison entre actions de développement de l'économie rurale. This means it links between actions for the development of the rural economy. LEADER merged the traditional European agricultural policy, which has existence since 1962, with a more modern rural development policy under socio-economical aspects. Only 217 LEADER regions existed in 1991, but now more than 2,700 are existing, and it's now a widespread network of sustainable rural development throughout Europe. The LEADER approach is based on 7 features. In this presentation, I would like to introduce you to the 4 important ones, which are the bottom-up approach, public-private partnership, what means governance instead of government, innovation, and of course, networking. The bottom-up or neo-endogenous approach is the basic principle. The idea behind is that local people are the best experts on their own region. They are the only ones who have special knowledge about the needs of the territory. The involvement of local actors as local experts leads to a collective approach with delegation of decision-making from top down. Local actors participate in decision-making about a local development strategy and in the selection of the priorities of themes to be pursued in the local areas. Very important is transparency. Procedures and decision-making and their results are highly transparent and thus are published, for example, in the internet, so that everyone knows what happens, and this leads to collaborative social control. Another important feature is the public-private partnership, and local public-private partnership for sustainable and rural development is referred to as the Local Action Group, LAG. Concerning the members, the LAG combines institutional and private stakeholders of a LEADER region from public, civil, and private sectors. and the LAG should be well balanced and broadly represent local interests and the different socio-economic sectors in the area. And how can this succeed? It's quite simple. The representatives of civil society must achieve a minimum of 50% in the LAG in order to constitute the mandatory quorum. And in case of a majority of public representatives, the decisions are considered as void. The LAG has the task of implementing the local development strategy, decision-making as to the allocation for projects, and steering the whole process of local development. Of course, only within the leader system. And the function of a LAG is to act like a steering body. And in this steering body, we have a combination of three main sectors. It's the public, the civil, and the private and economic sector. And the exact combination and number of members depends strongly on the particular territory and its characteristics, but we often see typical members that appear in almost every LAG, like mayors and public officials, representatives of education and culture and NGOs, and also farmers, villagers, or disadvantaged groups that are not so often heard by top-down policy. Because it's hard for such a diverse group with sometimes contrary interests to organize themselves, a professional management is needed. And the so-called regional management has several tasks and roles. The main one is to build and support a professional network structures, to coordinate multiple tasks for delivery of a local-based development strategy. And you can see the tasks like organizing, consulting, controlling, publishing, monitoring, and so on. So the regional manager plays an active role as visionary, promoter, guide, and animator at once. He or she is the key figure for maintaining and expanding the horizontal and vertical networks. This means bridging and linking the social capital of a region, and it's highly important between the program authorities and the local actors. So this was the theory, but what about the praxis? Perhaps the leader approach is only a nice little fairy tale? No, we have multiple added value of long-term multi-level networking, and it was proved, for example, by several surveys. And we have a continuous study case with results of 19 years and 3 differing funding periods of empirical analysis of the LAG, Wesermarsch and Bewegung in Germany. And this might be translated in Wesermarsch on the move. And this is a really experienced network. And we have an interest in deeper insights in the added value of networking for sustainable development and for change management and innovation, of course. And therefore, through the years, we supported extensive quantitative and qualitative evaluation. For example, with detailed guideline-based audio-recorded face-to-face interviews with all 25 LAG members. And of course, we compared our own findings with broader scientific analysis in Germany, for example, geographical, political, social, or sociological research. This is our region. This is where I work. We are localized between the North Sea, the city of Bremen, and the Netherlands. And I'm not only the regional manager of the leader region, Wesermarsch and Bewegung, but also the chairwoman of the steering board throughout Lower Saxony with 41 leader regions. So what do we know about the advantages of the network? I had chosen 4 statements for you of long-term experienced LAG members. And one civil partner said, all in all, it's a great thing that representatives of the municipalities join together with representatives of non-profit associations, with civil stakeholders, all with equal rights in the decision-making process. And this is transsectoral collaboration. It's an innovation in proceeding. Another civil partner said, the arguments of the civil partners are heard, discussed, rejected, or agreed to in the same way as those of the main administration officials or the representatives of the municipalities. And this is equality and trust. One public partner said, the civil partners understand better why certain things have to be clarified in the municipal world and how this works. And in return, we gain more insight into the thinking of the civil partners. And this means understanding. And another public partner says, especially the civil partners with their professional competence, sometimes take a more critical look at one thing or another. And this means knowledge transfer from bottom up instead of top down. And this is also an innovation. This illustration symbolizes the complexity of LIDA, the complexity of the whole network. And here you can see the rural landscape. And even if you can't recognize all the details, I will explain it to you and you have an expression of the whole system. So here we have subsidies plus the steering body, the LAG, plus bureaucracy, much of bureaucracy in the European Union, of course. We have new ideas. We have collaborative work. We have beneficiaries, many of them very happy with the subsidies for the implementation of their projects. We can see the local development strategy and the targets for the future, and again, new projects, and also the regional management is mentioned here for information. So we see that network means advantages for all sectors, for public and non-public, and this is a collaborative work. Collaborative networking means tapping new resources and retaining skills and knowledge. So it's activating the local social capital. Networks are titled as conglomerates of collective intelligence. Collective intelligence means that groups of individuals can find intelligent and innovative solutions through cooperation, regardless of the intelligence or knowledge of the individual members. So, collective intelligence catalyzes innovation. The added value of networks was investigated, for example, also in a widespread survey in Germany. And as most important advantages in a multiple choice questionnaire were nominated: bottom up and participation was 21%, networks and cooperation was 19%. So what about innovation? Innovation was nominated on only 3%, and we are wondering why. One of the reasons is that the understanding of the term innovation is different. Dargan and Chuck Smith revealed in a cost-crunching comparison of policy approaches to innovation that innovation is often associated with exogenous expert knowledge, private enterprise, product development, technology, science, and entrepreneur. But in rural leader regions, innovation has been understood in terms of social innovation, to encourage local linkage and collective learning cultures and cultural innovation, rather than in the sense of science policy and technological innovation. And a further factor is a question of time. Building a network means, step by step, The members of a network need to connect to each other, to learn from each other, to discuss and to bear conflicts and contrary positions. A network operates like a team with the classical periods of the team building cycle: norming, forming, storming, and performing. Networking needs time to operate, to strengthen and to expand. Effects or even impacts cannot be measured immediately and barely quantitatively. Consequently, the expectation of innovation in the context of leader often is misunderstood. Especially in evaluations or scientific studies, the time factor for the necessary capacity building sometimes is disregarded. In order to achieve the socio-cultural added value, or even innovation, or even change management, several years of networking are necessary. So the chain of effects is very, very important. And I would like to claim that surveys and evaluation need to consider the chain of effects at 4 successive levels. From the input, via the output, on the outcome, and then to the impact. And you see in brackets the definitions. So social innovation is seen at the level of impact and not earlier. And in surveys, sometimes many respondents have only a few years of experience. So it's impossible that they could recognize or even measure the level of impact, the level of society. My conclusions on the network's added value are the following. The network-based approach of leader is a successful principle for sustainable development because it subsumes the advantages of social capital, endogenous potential, collective intelligence, collaborative learning and development, and therefore innovation. And networking is a key factor for success and for governmental sustainable development in a globalized world. And the future prospects? With consideration of different socio-geographical and social-cultural conditions, leader can be a role model that might be implemented also in non-rural or non-European areas. And there are first experiences, or at least theories, for example, in Georgia, Ukraine, and China. So, thank you very much for your attention. Большое спасибо за внимание. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Goodbye.